Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you, Elon. It's been almost 6 years where I sat with you here in this platform with a great audience. It was your first trip to Dubai with your family. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Very much enjoyed it. I see my head is gigantic on the stage. And to have the organizational affiliation clearly identified, so that if you want to find out if somebody's actually, if an account is actually, say, from a member of parliament or a journalist, or let's say if a Twitter handle is actually belongs to, say, Disney Corporation or something like that, you can go on Twitter and it's sort of an identity layer of the internet. You can confirm that that is in fact the case. And I think once you've got these sort of interlocking sort of identities, it's actually very hard to be deceptive in that case, because and it's also you have a reputation to protect at that point. So I think then people are far more likely to be measured in their response and be more reasonable, since they have reputational value at that point. So these are some of the ideas that I have, and I'm not saying that for sure it will succeed or that it's going to be perfect, but I am confident that it will, over time, head into a good direction. And I think the evidence for that will be if people find it useful. As we're measuring sort of the total user minutes, but not just user minutes. Unregretted user minutes is, I think, the key figure of merit. Because while, for example, TikTok has a very high usage, I often hear people say, "Well, I spent 2 hours on TikTok, but I regret those 2 hours." I'm not trying to knock TikTok a bit, but it's just we don't want that to be the case with Twitter. We want to say, like, okay, you spent half an hour on Twitter, but you found it to be useful and entertaining and a good thing in your life. And ultimately be a force for good for civilization. That's the aspiration.
Thank you.
Do your own, you give a talk here, or you would, have a meeting at a summit or something. I think that's the way to do it. Is to actually do the tweets yourself, and convey the message that you want directly. Yeah, so, I mean, one thing I should say, and I know this is called the World Governance Summit, but I think we should be maybe a little bit concerned about actually becoming too much of a single world government. If I may say, that we want to avoid creating a civilizational risk by having, frankly, this may sound a little odd, too much cooperation between governments. If you look at, say, at history and the rise and fall of civilizations, that really all throughout history, civilizations have risen and fallen, but it hasn't meant the doom of humanity as a whole, because there've been all these separate civilizations that were separated by great distances. And so, say, like, while Rome was falling, Islam was rising, and so you had like the sort of caliphate doing incredibly well while Rome was doing terribly. And that actually ended up being a source of preservation of knowledge and many scientific advancements. And so I think we want to be a little bit cautious about being too much of a single civilization, because if we are too much of a single civilization, then the whole thing may collapse. I'm obviously not suggesting war or anything like that, but I think we want to be a little bit wary of actually cooperating too much. It sounds a little odd, but we want to have some amount of civilizational diversity, such that if something does go wrong with some part of civilization, that the whole thing doesn't collapse, and humanity keeps moving forward.
Thank you.
I mean, there's obviously the transition to sustainable energy with solar, wind, batteries, electric vehicles. And that is, if you look at the percentage growth of that, that is a very high percentage growth. Although because of the massive industrial base of the current sort of fossil fuel economy, even if all, for example, if electric cars were 100% of production immediately, it would take 20 years to replace the fleet. So this is still something that is quite gradual. It's measured in at least a few, 30, 40 years type of time frame. On a more sort of near-term time frame, I think artificial intelligence is something we need to be quite concerned about and really be attentive to the safety of AI. You mentioned ChatGPT earlier. I played a significant role in the creation of OpenAI. Essentially, at the time, I was concerned that Google was not paying enough attention to AI safety, and so I with a number of other people, created OpenAI. Although initially it was created as an open source nonprofit, and now it is closed source and for profit. I don't have any stake in OpenAI anymore, nor am I on the board, nor do I control it in any way. But the ChatGPT, I think, has illustrated to people just how advanced AI has become. Because the AI has been advanced for a while, it just didn't have a user interface that was accessible to most people. So what really ChatGPT has done is just put an accessible user interface on AI technology that has been present for a few years. And there are much more advanced versions of that are coming out. So I think we need to really be. I think we need to regulate AI safety, frankly, because if you think of any technology which is potentially a risk to to people, like if it's an aircraft or cars or medicine, we have regulatory bodies that oversee the public safety of cars and planes and medicine. And I think we should have a similar sort of regulatory oversight for artificial intelligence, because it is, I think, actually a bigger risk to society than cars or planes or medicine. People, and that it's pretty much 7 days a week, and mostly from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. I'm not suggesting this is good for everyone, and I think, frankly, I would like to work a bit less than that. So, I think, if I look at, say, Tesla went through some very difficult times where it was on the ragged edge of survival, and really, if I didn't give it everything I got, the company could have easily gone bankrupt. It was really on the verge of bankruptcy for quite a while. I don't mean to suggest complacency at this point, but it does require much less work to operate Tesla now versus, say, in the 2017 to 2019 timeframe. And it's not a mortal risk of supply. It's achieved economies of scale that make it, not on the ragged edge of survival.
No alien.
I don't think it's aliens, no. I mean, I do find the whole question of aliens a very interesting one. What is typically called the Fermi paradox, which is that if the universe is really as old as science seems to think it is, and where are the aliens? Have we really been around for 13.8 billion years? If so, where shouldn't there be aliens all over the place? The crazy thing is I've seen no evidence of alien technology or any alien life whatsoever, and I think I know. SpaceX, we do a lot. I mean, I don't think anyone knows more about space than me, or at least the space technology. But I think it's actually a troubling thing if there are no aliens as well, which is that what that actually could mean then is that sort of civilization and consciousness is like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, and a very vulnerable tiny candle that could easily get blown out. And I think we should therefore take great care with what may very well be this tiny candle in a vast darkness, and make sure that it does not go out, and that we extend the light of consciousness beyond Earth, and do everything we can to ensure that the light of consciousness does not go out.
Elon, we're running out of time. Thank you very much, and hopefully to see you next year with us here in the Emirates with your family.
Sounds good. And thanks so much. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.